Put your hand on your lower back. Find the two knuckles of bone just above your belt line, one above the other.
Okay, why?
Because there is a boy who died 1.5 million years ago in what is now northern Kenya, and in exactly that place, between exactly those two bones, he has a joint that should not be there.
Shouldn't be there how?
Nobody built it. It grew, and for 12 years that was the least interesting thing about him, because the whole field was arguing about whether he was a dwarf. In 1984, at a place called Nariokotome on the west side of Lake Turkana, a fossil hunter named Kamoya Kimeu spotted a piece of skull the size of a matchbox in a dry riverbed. Digging there went on for another 5 years. What came out of the ground is cataloged as KNMWT 15,000, and it is still, 40 years later, the most complete skeleton of Homo erectus that anyone has ever found. A boy, 8 years old, or a little older, dead about 1.5 million years.
How complete is complete?
Almost all of him. Ribs, vertebrae, arms, legs, the skull, which put him in a strange position. When you want to know what a species was actually like, how tall, how built, how it moved, you need a reference. One individual complete enough to measure everything against. For Homo erectus, he was it. Every textbook figure, every reconstruction, every estimate of how that species was put together traces back through this one boy. And then in 2001, Bruce Latimer and John Oman presented a paper arguing that the reference was broken. Their reading of the spine was that the vertebrae were abnormally flat and abnormally small, that the spinal canal was too narrow, that there was a gap in the bone at the base of the spine, that the whole column was twisted with scoliosis. Put together, they proposed a diagnosis, a very rare inherited disorder of the skeleton. This boy was not a normal Homo erectus. He was a sick one, and a short one.
So the one skeleton we measure everything against is the one we can't trust.
That was exactly the problem. And it is worth saying that they were not being careless. The asymmetries in that spine are real. Somebody looking at those bones with a clinician's eye will see things that look wrong, because in a living patient, they would be wrong. And it left the field in an awkward place. The best evidence we had for an entire species came with an asterisk on it. And for 12 years, nobody could take the asterisk off. Then, Regula Schiess and Martin Hausler at Zurich went back to the bones and did something fairly unglamorous. They measured them against the spines of normal modern adolescents. Not against adults, against boys the same age. The vertebrae were not abnormally flat. There were no irregularities on the surfaces where the discs sit. Nothing about the shape fell outside what a healthy human teenager looks like. The following year, they took the scoliosis apart as well.
So there was nothing wrong with him at all.
One thing survived, and the paper that reported it puts it about as plainly as anyone could want. Apart from signs of a traumatic injury to the lower spine, the Nariokotome Boy appears to be a normal Homo erectus youth with no pathology of the spine at all. That injury is the joint you have your hand near right now.
What is it?
On the fifth bone of his lower back, the upper edge of the joint surface has grown a thick, curved lip of extra bone. And on the underside of the fourth bone, immediately above it, a completely new joint has formed where there should not be one. Two bones grinding against each other in a way they were never meant to, until the body gave up and built a surface for it. The diagnosis is a slipped disc. Lumbar 4, lumbar 5. The oldest one anybody has ever found. And it is worth knowing why it is those two and not any of the others. Your spine is a column of bones stacked upright, and the load accumulates downward. Everything above a vertebra is resting on it. By the time you reach the fourth and fifth, you are at the bottom of that stack, carrying the whole torso, just before the weight transfers out into the hips. That junction is also where the spine bends most when you lean forward and lift. Most load, most movement, same two bones. It is where a human spine fails, and it is where his did. And here is the part that changes it from a fact into a person. Bone takes time to do that. The amount of remodeling on those two surfaces means the injury did not happen the week he died. It happened months earlier. He got hurt, probably a fall, and then he went on living, walking on it, working around it for months. 1.5 million years ago, an 8-year-old boy had a bad back.
Then it isn't really about him. Everybody gets that.
Not everybody. And that is the second half of this, because in 2015, a researcher named Kimberly Plomp asked a question nobody had bothered with. If back injury is the price of standing upright, why doesn't everyone pay it? So she compared vertebrae, from people whose spines showed disc damage, from people whose spines did not, and from chimpanzees. The spines that had failed were shaped differently, not dramatically, but measurably, consistently in the direction of the chimpanzee. Rounder vertebral bodies where a healthy human one is closer to heart-shaped. Shorter pedicles, the two struts of bone that run backward from the body of the vertebra. Small differences, a few millimeters of shape, and they sorted the damaged spines from the healthy ones. Her explanation is that a chimpanzee's spine is built for a body that spends its time in trees and moves on 4 limbs when it comes down. Ours was rebuilt for standing. The people who herniate are not unlucky. Their spines sit at the older end of the range of shapes that human spines come in, and they are being asked to do a job that shape was never finished for.
So there are 2 kinds of human spine walking around.
Not 2 kinds, a range. Everybody is somewhere on it, and the end you sit on was decided before you were born. Some spines finish the job. Some are still carrying the shape of the animal that walked on 4 limbs. Now, I want to be careful with all of that, because it is thinner than it sounds. Discs do not fossilize. Nobody has ever seen this boy's disc. What exists is the bone around where it was, and the paper is honest about that. It says possible, and it says most likely, and those words are doing real work. His age is not settled either. The teeth say about 8. The rest of the skeleton says older. Nobody has closed that gap. And Plomp's study measured a particular kind of damage, the sort that pushes down through the bone rather than out sideways, which is not the same injury that traps a nerve and sends pain down your leg. The shape finding is real. How far it stretches is not decided. So put your hand back where it was. 2 bones, one above the other, right above the belt line. They are the last 2 that have to carry everything above them before the load reaches your hips. And they are the 2 that fail in humans more than any other pair in the body. They failed in a boy who was 8 years old in Kenya before there was any such thing as a person like you. He got up anyway and kept walking on it for months, and the only reason we know is that his bones tried to fix it and left the repair behind. You are not broken. You are not weak. You inherited this.